All right, hello. Just explaining a forearm routine I did on 5/1, 2026. Now, this was a pretty long routine. I broke it up into two sessions. So I had the morning session and then a night session. So to start off with here, it was Friday, and Fridays are about the only day that is on a schedule for me. And I do the 2.25-inch wrist curls. And as I've said before, these are partial reps, they're not full reps. But I seem to do these pretty consistently on Fridays. It just works out perfect, I guess. So here it is. Here's what I started with here. I did 60 pounds for 30 reps, 80 pounds for 30 reps, 110 pounds for 30 reps, 130 pounds for 30 reps, 150 pounds for 12 reps, 170 pounds for 12 reps, and then 185 for 3 reps. So these 7 sets here were both left and right hands were the same. My right hand is way stronger than my left on these, but I do like to get these first few sets kind of keeping them similar. It just helps editing, makes it quicker, and plus my right arm isn't 100%. It is challenged by these sets, but not very much. So I just find it easier to do it this way, and it works out pretty decently. But so the 8th set here is where I start breaking off, separating the left and the right hands. So what I did here is I did 200 for 1 with the left hand, and as I've said in the past, the way I count these is if it moves even a tiny amount, I count it. Because when the weight gets heavy on these, you're obviously not going to move it very far, if that makes sense. It's just a really weird lift to do it this way. So it just starts smashing everything down. So if you feel like it moved and it looks like it moved, then I just count the rep. But yeah, I'm pretty certain this one here, it moved very, very minutely. We'll just say that. And then what I did after that is I held it for a small amount of time, so I could get some more out of the set there. So the 9th set here was the right hand, and I did 200 for 3 reps. The 10th set was the right again, 215 for 3 reps. And I forgot to mention here, after that set there, my left hand was feeling a little bit, I don't want to say, I felt like that was a good place to stop. Let's just say that. And I've learned as I get older here, it's best I listen to my body. It just will work out better for me in the end. So, like I said, my left hand was like, I feel like I've done enough there, so I quit there with the left. So the right, yep, that's all I did. The right hand from here on out. So after the 215 for 3, I did 230 for 3, and I did 245 for 3, and then I did 265 for 2. And once again, these ones, they didn't move very much, but they did move. It was very, very minutely, but they did move. So after that, I kind of wanted to do something I'd never done before. And I don't think I've done 265 for 2 reps before. I may have. I'll have to look back on it. But I have never done this 280 for a static hold before. And I was actually surprised I was able to hold it for a decent amount. So it was at this point here, I ran out of time. I was a little bit perturbed here. But I know that, I think I gave myself about an hour and a half. So next time I may have to give myself a little bit longer, maybe an hour and 45 minutes, because I do like to throw in some down sets here, and I wasn't able to, and it kind of perturbed me, because I think those down sets are key to your strength gains, because once you've kind of built up this, I'm trying to think here, how do I want to word this? When you overload and then you drop down, you're always able to do more reps depending on your fatigue level. Sometimes you can't if you're fatigued too much. But if you drop down the right amount, you should be able to do more. And typically what I'll do after this is I'll either drop down maybe 20 to 40 pounds, depending on how fatigued I feel. With this being a static hold, I think I'd drop down maybe 40 pounds and try to do as many reps as I could there. And then I always like to throw in a 205 or 210 down set to see how many I can get with that with the right hand. And I like to do a down set with my left hand, but ran out of time, so it is what it is. Happens. So that was it for the day session. The night session here, I did a lot of sledgehammer stuff. Started off, I did some sledgehammer wrist deviation, and this one was the standing and to the rear here. What I do here is this is a 6-pound sledge, and I got the sledge handle marked off in inches, and I just hold it at a different increment and try to do it. So the first set here I held it at 12 inches for 12 reps, then 15 inches for 6 reps, then 18 inches for 3 reps, then 20 inches for 3 reps, 22 inches for 2, and then I decided I would try to do a single here, and I did 23 for 1 rep. Total on this thing here is I'm obviously not going to be able to hold it at 31 because my hand would be off, but I think I could hold it. 29 is about the bottom of the handle here, with all my fingers still on it. So I'm getting pretty close to being able to do the whole hammer here. Still far away though. This is crazy how much you wouldn't think that would make much of a difference, just like 1 inch at a time, but it does. It makes a hell of a difference. So the last set here, I did a down set, held the hammer at 16 inches for 12. So pretty happy with that. And then I went on and I did a variation here to work my brachioradialis. I believe that's what it's called. I keep meaning to look it up and remember what it's called, but I keep forgetting. So this is just a lift with it's like a karate belt. I tied a knot at the end so I could put the weights on it. And this is just a bent arm lift with a static hold at the end, if I'm able to. So what I like to do when I do this, I like to start at around, what is that? Be parallel. My arm will be parallel to the floor so that I'm getting that proper load on my brachioradialis as I'm lifting it up. So it does get, if I'm able to lift it, it does get easier at the hold area because the angle is different. But so for me, the reason I used to do this higher up, and I noticed that, yeah, you can lift a lot of weight, but I didn't feel like the pressure was where it should be, I guess. So I switched to doing it this way, and I feel like it is much more efficient. So I will probably stick with this way. In the past, I've done this lift at, like I said, a different angle, and I think I was able to lift. It was like 200 or something, maybe over 2. I can't remember. It was an amount of weight that I probably shouldn't have been doing, and I don't think it was very beneficial for strengthening that area in the long run, I guess. So I do feel like this variation is better. So start off here, I did 25 pounds just for a hold. These are all holds. I don't really do this for reps, just a lift and a hold. And then 50 pounds, then 75 pounds, and then 90 pounds here. I was only able to do this with the right hand. The left hand, I couldn't lift it up. And then I did 60 pounds, and then I did 40 pounds. So the amount of time, I didn't time it officially, so it's not going to be there. I don't know if I'll ever do that. I don't feel it's really necessary. So at least not for now. Maybe I'll start actually timing it, but for now I just kind of count, and I shoot for around 10 seconds. But it's not exact, I guess. So I just try to hold it. Let's just say that. Hold it for some amount of time. Okay, so the next thing I did here was a sledgehammer laying wrist deviation. I did do two variations of this, the front and the back. I felt like I could work the back side of my forearm. It's radial and ulnar, but I always get them mixed up. I can't remember which one is which. So I'm not going to specify here, so I apologize for that. Most of the time I just say front and back. So this first one here was the front of my wrist. And I held the hammer at 10 inches for 12. And this is still the same sledge, the 6-pound sledge. Then 11 inches for 12, 12 inches for 8, 8 inches for 12, and then 6 inches for 20. Did a down set there just to get some blood flow going. And then I did this one was the same variation as the first lift, except I'm laying down in this variation. I do feel like this isolates. I've done these standing as well, but I like this version. I feel like it isolates the whole movement more. So I think I might start doing this, and it almost feels better on my wrist all in all. So I might start doing this one a little bit more. I was pretty happy with this one. I liked it. So what I did here on this one, started off with held the hammer at 10 inches for 12, then 12 inches for 12, then 14 inches for 8. And it was kind of at this moment that I thought, you know what, I might be able to do something with this and work up to it like a heavy set, I guess, per se. So I did 16 inches for 4, and then 18 inches for 4, and then I decided, you know what, we could keep going here, or I could just try a challenging area here, and I held the hammer at 21 inches for 2. I do feel like I may be able to do more, at least on that day, but I thought, you know what, let's not top this out right now. Let's, because I've just started doing this variation not too long ago. So I figured that was a good place to stop for now, and so that's what I did. And it looks like I didn't even do a down set, so I hope I didn't. If I did do a down set, I apologize, I didn't write it down. But I don't think I did. So the last thing I did here for my extensors, as I seem to not really work those as much as I should, I need to throw another day in where I just do the extensors. But so for this one here, I just use a 2x4 that I have, and I use this 2x4. It's got an area that I drilled a hole in it so I can load weights to it. But for this movement, I didn't need any weight. This is a very weak movement for me, and I'm sure it might be for most people. It's just an awkward movement. So what I do is I stand up and I bend my arm, and I just wrap my hand around the 2x4 with no thumb. So the thumb is over the top with the rest of the fingers, and then I just do a wrist extension with the bent arm. So I guess it's like a crane, But so no weight on this one, just did 12 reps, and I was really feeling it towards the end of the 12 reps. So I do feel like this was a good way to finish my forearms off here. So just whatever the board weighs, it's not very much. I think it's like 2 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds, somewhere in there. It's not very much at all. So I did 5 sets of just 12 reps on this one. Basically just to finish off my forearms here and at least get some work on my extensors that I seem to neglect. I need to stop doing that because they are a very important part of the forearm. In fact, they might be the most important part of the forearm, as if you, they say, and it's, I don't have any elbow pain, I shouldn't jinx myself, but they say that that does help with that, working your extensors more. In the past, I have had some, I still have them, but the rubber bands that go around your fingers, and you just extend your fingers. So I just need to go back to doing that. And I should just maybe throw that in as like a warm-up or something before I start my forearms, just to make sure I get that work in there. But yeah, all in all, I'm happy with this routine. Like I said, this took a lot more time. So it is what it is. I guess if I had less time, I could throw in or throw out some of this stuff, but I had the time, so I think all this stuff was beneficial. I don't feel like any of these movements were wasted. I don't feel like it was like any junk volume in there at all. I feel pretty good about this routine. So it is what it is. So if you got any questions, comments, or tips, leave them down below. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Have a good day.